The Oklahoma City Thunder are rumored to potentially be trying to trade up in the 2024 NBA draft to go get one of the top prospects in this year's draft. And many Thunder fans are speculating how this potential player could push the Thunder over the edge and then make them a championship winning team the next season and for many years to come as well. What up? It's Bryson Akins with another Thunder Digest video for you guys today. Before we get all this though, I want to take a moment and say that if you guys find yourself coming back on a regular basis and you enjoy the content on this channel, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. It's totally free to do, and it's the best way to support the channel. With that out of the way, we can go ahead and get into this, talking about this player that is like he was at first projected to be a top 3 overall pick, maybe even go 2 and 1 in some mock draft boards. However, he's been dropping a little bit ever since then, falling anywhere from 6 to 7 and even sometimes 8 overall in some of these mock drafts, just because of how loaded some of these teams are earlier in the rounds or earlier in the draft with their center and power forward positions. But there are some teams that want to go get them and really establish their 4 and 5 as some of the most dominant and young centers and power forwards in the NBA. And we're talking about Donovan Clingan from the UConn Huskies. And here's what they had to say. In the latest mock draft, they were not mock draft, but rated prospects. They had Clingan rated as the 3rd best overall prospect. But here's what they had to say in this article. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger so you guys can also see there. I had trouble reading that. I'm sure you guys did as well. So here it is. You know, when you look at him, he's 7'3" on ESPN, what they had to say here in the article, 20 years old. You know, previously ranked, he was the 3rd best prospect as well. So not much has changed for him. But this article, what they had to say about him, you know, where he could potentially go, is what caught my eye. Clingan is a top 3 prospect who might experience a minor drop on draft night because teams that are in the numbers 3 through 6 range already have starting centers in place. He's in conversation at number 1 after working out in Atlanta, which is exploring trade down scenarios. He is also spending time in Washington, which has the number 2 pick. Clingan isn't expected to drop past the Portland Trail Blazers at number 7, whom he just visited for a private workout as well. He is being discussed among teams as a possible target. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For the likes of Chicago, Memphis, Oklahoma City, or Utah, who all might explore trading up for a player in his mold. Clingan's appeal is evident at 7'3" with a 7'7" wingspan and 9'7" standing reach. And he's viewed by many as the draft's most impactful defensive prospect guarding the pick and roll. His youth, productivity, touch, and instincts on both ends of the court give him a high floor and make him a sleeper candidate to hear his name called at number 1. So he could potentially go number 1 overall depending on who has that pick. But when you look at the draft, when you look at the prospects this year, where teams are positioned, and there are already trades that are going to happen that we don't know about just yet, but teams have probably already discussed them, already made, shook hands on it. They just haven't officially made it yet because those seasons still going on, the playoffs are going on, the finals currently. And so there's definitely some trade ups and downs that could happen where Clingan could fall to another team besides that top 3 range, which, a lot of personnel are expecting him to go. He could drop down just because of how stacked some of these teams are at the center position. Like it said with Atlanta, they might try to trade down for him, go down to like number 5 overall, so they can get him on a more budget-friendly deal, even though they want to take them, even though they have the number 1 overall pick. They don't want to spend that pick on him. And you see that a lot in the draft as well. Like Oklahoma City Thunder, they've done that before. We've definitely done that a few times before where we trade down and go get a guy. You see that with every team. They recognize a prospect that they really not want. They can get them later in the draft. Just however, they know if they have the 29th overall pick, that guy will go at 20 overall. So they try to trade down a little bit and go get him or even trade up. It just happens all the time in the draft. And when you look at the board this year, when you look at the draft board, look at all the teams that we have here. Atlanta, Washington, Houston, San Antonio, Detroit, Charlotte. Those top 5 guys there, I'm going to leave out Charlotte there at the 6. Those top 5, they either have a center already or they're developing someone that they drafted a year or 2 prior. You look at it with Washington, they have Giddey right now at the power forward that they really want to try to develop. Atlanta, they don't really necessarily have anyone to the top of, to the best of my knowledge. Houston, they have Sengun. San Antonio, of course, Wembanyama, the alien down there. And then Detroit, they do have some bigger guys down there that they might try to refine a little bit more. So I could definitely see him falling a little bit in the draft, or even Atlanta trying to trade down. And then you look at some of these other teams going down here. Portland, San Antonio again, Memphis, Utah, Chicago, OKC, Sacramento, and Portland. You look at all these teams, and they could be trying to trade up to for sure grab them at like 6th, 5th, maybe even 7th overall. Because when I'm just looking at it right now, those top 4 teams, I don't think they're going to try and draft Clingan that early. Especially when you look at teams like San Antonio and Houston, I don't think they're going to draft him at the 3 or 4 overall. Atlanta, I can tell that they kind of want him, but they don't want to take him at number 1 overall. They're probably still going to take Sarr from France. It's just one of those situations where he's expecting this year's draft. It's just a matter of trading down. So when I look at this right here, when I look at this list of teams, if I see OKC, what they want to do, if you're trying to trade for anyone, I think you trade for that middle ground with Charlotte. I think you try to trade with Charlotte, and maybe, just maybe, you can try to work out a deal to get one of the players that you traded for Gordon Hayward last season. When you look at them, there are a few guys that we could go after and try to get. I think the one that's stands out at the top of my list, that's a team favorite, one of my personal favorites as well, is Tre Mann, just what he brought to the team. And I think he has potential to be a great guard in this league. Now, I don't think he'll ever be an all-star by any means, but he'll always be a good starting guard and role player in this league, and I feel like they'd be valuable to have on the team, especially kind of being that guy in Charlotte for half the season when he was traded. I feel like that really developed him as a player. We could bring him back. What it reminds me is like when you do a loan in soccer. You see that all the time, how teams will loan him to another team, and then boom, they recall him as soon as they see him develop into a better player because they're in the spotlight. It's kind of the same thing going on with Tre Mann. So what you can do a pick swap and then a player swap as well if you want. Maybe, someone that you drafted a year or two ago that isn't really working out. You don't really like the looks of it. They're not really fitting into the scheme. You can trade them, or even, another pick or two as well to get that pick and Tre Mann back. You can keep all the players that you have. So that's what I see when I'm looking at that list of, teams so far going on. Clingan would also be a great addition to the team. I think he would. There's no telling if he'd be a starter immediately because we'd have cap space to go still go get guys, and he could be a great player off the bench. I think he would definitely be that. He has starter potential in the league. Like I mentioned, though, before in previous videos, I feel like a lot of the guys in the draft, they're not already NBA ready. I feel like Clingan, he will take a year to get used to it, and then the year after that, he will be a very good player in the league. I feel like he definitely would, compared to some other guys. And you can also see it when you look at the stats here. In his 2 seasons at UConn, his first season, he didn't really do much to stand out besides defensively, of course. And that's what they said in the article, too, there. He is a defensive unit. That's what they said. And you can tell by his freshman year stats here when you're looking at it. In 39 games played, he didn't start a single game either. All right, only played 13 minutes a game, shooting 65% from the field there. And this is off the bench when he didn't start. Keep that in mind. 1.8 blocks, only 8 blocks, 13 minutes of play. That is impressive to me. That is very impressive. And 7 points a game. He's doing that efficiently. He's not taking any 3 balls. We know he's not a 3-point shooter at all. Free throw percentage is a little bit shaky. Throws me off a little bit there. And it doesn't really, go up a ton the next year. It does go up, but not, very much. And then rebounding-wise, 5.6 and 13 minutes of play at the college level. That's very solid. And then when he does become a starter, he didn't start 2 of the games this year. He worked his way into that role early on. Played 35 games, started 33 in 22 minutes of play. He shot 63% from the field, 58% from the line. So a little bit of an increase from the line there, which is nice to see. Taking 4 free throws a game there. You're getting a line, no, not a lot, but a decent amount. 7.4 rebounds. And what sticks out to me about his rebounds is 2.5 offensive rebounds a game. That's what sticks out to me. 13 points a game, less than a turnover a game. He's staying out of foul trouble with only 2 a game right now. And then 2.5 blocks a game. That is what's really impressive to me about Clingan. That is what really stands out to me about the player, is he adds this kind of extra help on defense immediately. Immediately, with his size as well. When you look at it, I'm going to go and bring up his, kind of player profile on ESPN here so you can see the size. 7'2", 280 pounds. That's what we're lacking right now, is this beefy, big body down low in the paint. Now, I know you guys will bring up, what about Holmes? You said the opposite about him. I never said he's not a bad defensive player. I never said that about him. I just said I think he's a 2-year project before he really turns into a valuable player on this team that brings an impact to this team. Clingan, I think it'll take a year for him to really develop and then be that guy. The thing is, taking Clingan, I feel like if he is, a starter, I'm not saying he'll immediately be one. He'd have to work his way into that role, especially if we keep a bunch of players or go get another guy in free agency. But when you're looking at this, 7'2", 280 pounds at 20 years old, that is a very big body that a lot of teams don't have in the NBA already with experienced veteran players. I think that gives us an edge because it actually allows us someone to go to work down low in the post. It does, and I watched a few of his highlights too. It's not like he's this center that can't pass the ball either, where he just has the post game and that's it, where he's just, a paint beast. I've seen his highlights a few times. He has decent court awareness. He can make a few good passes here and there. Doesn't turn the ball over a lot either. He holds on to the ball a ton. He doesn't let it get stolen away from him. He doesn't make errant passes either when he's trying to pass out. He's a smart basketball player. He is. I think he brings value to any team that drafts him, and I feel like there are a bunch of teams already where he would be a starter on. I feel like if he gets drafted by the Thunder, it would take a little bit for him to work into that role, or maybe even another year before he can become a starter for this team. However, I wouldn't be mad if we try to trade up and go get him. I just think if we do, we trade with Charlotte, try to get Tre Mann back since he has developed a little bit more into a better player. We can get him back on the team for another year, help us out with bench depth and, at the guard position there because there wasn't another, super reliable, a floor general coming off the bench, all right? There wasn't anyone that was really leading the second unit, setting up offensive plays. And I feel like Tre Mann can do that for us. And then Clingan, it just adds that extra beefy body that we've been missing, and we still have room in free agency in the cap to go get another option to add onto the bench if we really wanted to and be 12-man deep. But that's really all I got for this video. Let me know what you guys think about trading up for Clingan, if you guys like it or if you guys just dislike it. I know a lot of people don't really like Clingan for some reason. I'm indifferent. I don't have any bad, I feel like he's a great player. He can make it in the league. I just feel like we have the cap space. You want to go ahead and get someone that's more experienced in the league already, that has experience playing the NBA against these and with these bodies, like Nick Claxton. I really like him. I think he's the best option in free agency for us to get, but I wouldn't be mad if we do get Clingan at all. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.